Reflection 3. When principles appeared before systems. The guideposts did not arrive as a project. There was no moment where I decided to sit down and define how life should be lived. No ambition to codify wisdom or distill philosophy into something teachable. If anything, the opposite was true. I was trying to reduce friction, not create doctrine. They emerge the way pressure points do, where something keeps hurting until it's addressed. Certain patterns repeated themselves. Overcommitment followed by resentment. Desire masquerading as obligation. Busyness disguising avoidance. Ideals adopted without asking whether they fit the life I was actually living. Each pattern carried a cost, and each cost eventually demanded payment. The guideposts were not answers to abstract questions, they were responses to lived consequences. I noticed that many problems did not arise in the moment they became visible. They were seated much earlier, in what I agreed to, what I pursued without questioning, what I allowed to remain vague. By the time the pain appeared, the real decisions had already been made. So the guideposts formed upstream. They functioned less like advice and more like pre-decisions, ways of resolving tension before it escalated into overload, ways of saying no early enough that saying yes later would still be possible. Do not pursue valueless things was not moral instruction. It was energy conservation. Convert time into love was not sentiment. It was prioritization. Know what is sufficient was not asceticism. It was relief. Each guidepost reduced the number of active demands. Each one lowered background noise. Each one prevented a category of future regret from ever entering the system. What struck me even then was how little they asked of me emotionally. They didn't require constant vigilance or motivational force. Once adopted, they simplified. They made fewer things possible, and in doing so, made what remained more sustainable. Only later did I realize what was happening. Before there was any architecture, there was constraint. Before systems, there were principles. Before coherence, there was care. I wasn't building a framework. I was building margins. Margins where life could breathe. Margins where relationships could deepen without collapse. Margins where attention could rest instead of scatter. The guideposts were not the structure itself. They were the load-bearing limits that made structure possible. And once those limits were in place, something unexpected happened. The mind grew quieter. Not empty, but ordered. Less driven by urgency. Less reactive to every possibility. More capable of staying with what mattered without constantly defending it. I still didn't think of this as a system, but in hindsight, this was the moment when architecture stopped being accidental and began gently to take shape.